There is a new man in charge of Tottenham Hotspurs now, but this same man could become a problem.
Big breaking news to bring you here on Sky Sports News, and Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach. They did it with an announcement on their website.
Thomas Frank, a few days back, was appointed as the new head coach of Spurs, a decision that has sparked outrage from fans.
And get us over that line and, getting that Champions League spot. I am very, very disappointed, if I'm honest. And am I surprised? Probably not.
Left club legend stunned.
Left.
Yes, but in football, nothing can surprise you anymore.
And for the players at the club, it's shocking. Thomas Frank may not have realized it yet, but he's walking into a death trap with Spurs. He's got big problems staring at him in the face, and some of them might just be too big to handle. Quick one though, we're trying to bring you more quality content like this, and in turn, all you've got to do is hit that subscribe button down below. It's that easy. The first, Thomas Frank has to find a way to get that Spurs team to play for him. It's easy to say this on paper, but watching the way that team was after winning in Bilbao, you could tell one thing.
And I'll tell you something, I'll leave you with this. All the best television series, Season 3 is better than Season 2.
Despite the poor domestic season, which we will get to, it's clear these players wanted to play for the former manager, Ange Postecoglou. It's clear that the fans had connected with him as well. It's become even clearer right after Ange's sacking. Soon as he left, the tributes started pouring out from players. Yves Bissouma posted an emotional story of the private conversation he had with Ange. Heung-min describes himself as a better player and better person because of Ange. Richarlison talks about him as the man who believed in him during the trickiest part of his career. These are just a few examples out of many. Usually when a manager gets sacked, there's oftentimes mixed feelings with the players. Some who wanted him to leave and some who wanted him to stay. But with Ange Postecoglou, it's one clear message. The Spurs players had connected emotionally to him and they felt devastated when he left. The mood in the team? It's a confusing one. That's the one Thomas Frank is entering. It's a Spurs team that's used to change. Since Mauricio Pochettino was sacked in 2019, the club has had 7 different managers in 6 years before Thomas Frank's appointment. As a player, it becomes confusing and frustrating to have to adapt to new tactics, new systems almost every season. Still, on the players, Thomas Frank faces another big problem.
I want to talk Heung-min Son.
Yeah.
Are Spurs really going to let their talisman go?
Yes, if the right offer comes in. He's been at the club for a long period of time.
Son Heung-min, a huge servant to the club. He's been at Spurs since 2015. That's 10 years now. Club captain. His numbers might have dipped in the previous season due to injuries and poor form, but he's also been a very consistent performer. The 2024-25 season was the first time some failed to hit the double-digit mark for goals in the Premier League with Spurs. He'd done it in the previous 8 seasons consecutively, and in 3 of those seasons he got 10 assists as well. Even with the drop-off, he was still the 4th highest goal scorer for Spurs in all competitions with 11 this season, only behind Brennan Johnson, Dominic Solanke, and James Maddison. The point is, Son has been a very important player for Spurs over the years. Losing a player like him would be huge, not just because of his personality, but what he brings to the team in terms of quality and goal contributions as well. Son isn't the only high-profile player on the verge of leaving Spurs as well.
Can you bring us in Christian Romero at Tottenham, Alex?
Yeah, this is one to keep a close eye on throughout the summer as well. He's been linked with Real Madrid in the past.
Cuti Romero, man of the match in the Europa League final win over Manchester United, Europa League player of the season. You wouldn't guess it judging by how poor Spurs were as a team defensively, but from an individual standpoint, he's top 5 in the best center backs in the Premier League, and arguably top 10 in world football. He could be on his way out of Spurs this season. He's already been linked to clubs like Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Atletico seems like the ideal destination for him, where he could unite with fellow Argentine manager Diego Simeone, as well as players like Rodrigo de Paul and Julian Alvarez. If you're Thomas Frank, you either have to find a way to stop this or get a quick fix. Both have to be fast. See guys, the issue with these 2 players leaving is what Spurs have on the horizon in the coming season. Champions League football. By winning the Europa League, Spurs have taken the back door to playing with European football's elite next season. The Champions League requires teams to have a balance of experience and youth. Losing arguably the two most experienced players in the team, by way of trophies and games played, that's going to be a huge mess. Replacing them could be even harder. Champions League football in 2025-26 will be big for Spurs. A couple of the players in the team would be experiencing it for the first time, including the manager.
I think the biggest challenge for Thomas Frank is there's going to be a massive difference in expectations. Brentford are underdogs. You know, they jokingly refer to themselves as just a bus stop in Hounslow, where Spurs are going to be playing in the Champions League. Brentford played around 43 games in all competitions last season. For Spurs, it was 60.
It's a lot. The truth is, the expectations at Brentford aren't the same as at Spurs. At Brentford, Thomas Frank and his team haven't been heavily involved at either end of the table. Since they've been in the Premier League, they finished 13th, 9th, 16th, and 10th in the league. The 2023-24 campaign was the only one where they came a bit close to a relegation scrap. Thomas Frank has to suddenly move from comfortable mid-table finishes to a Tottenham team that has Champions League football at the top of its agenda. The point here is that we saw what he could do with his Brentford team. They went from playing pragmatic football after they got promoted in 2022 to expanding and playing entertaining football with risks, producing exciting players like Ivan Toney, Brian Mbeumo, and Yohan Wissa along the way. All of this wouldn't be enough. That's the big picture. Entertaining football alone wouldn't cut it for Spurs. He'd have to find a way to mix that with results. Then you think about the first competitive start he's got with Spurs in Europe. A UEFA Super Cup match against PSG. Yes, the same PSG team that as of this recording beat Inter Milan 5-0 in the Champions League final and beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 in their opening game of the Club World Cup. If the plan isn't clear, that could become an epic beatdown. Then, of course, the club. The Europa League win might have overshadowed some of the big issues at the club, but it takes nothing away from the fact that domestically, Spurs was horrible. The league standings say everything. 22 Premier League defeats from 38 games. That isn't just mid-table stuff, that's flirting with relegation form. They finished 17th in the league. Outside the three teams that got relegated, with the established regulars that is, Spurs finished last. Had this to an injury crisis that almost crippled the team. For context, Spurs finished third in end-of-the-season injury table, according to data from PhysioRoom.com with 22. Brentford were miles clear in 14th with just 12 injuries. Thomas may have never really been such a mess. With the compact schedule in European football, he'd have less time to implement a playing style. Now, this could be huge in determining how his tenure as manager turns out.
You play two systems, normally a back four, but when you're playing into the so-called top six or some of the bigger teams, you go to a back three. Could you just stand up? Could you just actually show us and maybe what was...
He's talked here about having different presets for how his team plays. In this case, what he means is having different game plans for when Brentford played the top six and when they played teams outside the top six, the rest of the league. It took him years to build an understanding of this with his team. He has less than 2 months to get the plan across to his team. And now we say this because
they can change manager, a lot of manager, but the situation cannot change. Believe me. Thank you very much.
It's just what it is. The history of Tottenham.
I hope the Tottenham fans don't get me wrong, but the only club in my career where I don't have still a deep feeling.
This is the first time in my career to see a situation like this. And until now, I wasn't able to change.
No, I think the last 48 hours has revealed to me the foundations are fairly fragile, mate, so that's what I feel.
The ones that came before him all say the same thing. Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, even Ange in that clip. They all complain about the mentality of the club, particularly from the men above, which in this case is Daniel Levy. With Spurs, it's a false idea. They give the impression of wanting to become a team that allows a manager the time to build. But at the same time, they've had 7 managers in 7 years, with Thomas Frank included. In that same space, they've had legendary managers like Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte come into the club and complain about the same thing. It would be unfair to talk about this without at least giving credit to Thomas Frank. If there's anything the Premier League has shown, it's that the gap between Championship football and Premier League football is becoming increasingly bigger. The 3 promoted teams have all gone straight down to the Championship in the last 2 seasons. Brentford, under Thomas Frank, gained promotion and has been in evolution ever since. There is, of course, the possibility that he goes to Spurs and finds a way to change things, from the relationship he had with current Spurs technical director Johan Lang decades ago at Lyngby. It seems that they had a clear idea why they chose him. But this video shows the big problems welcoming him at the club. Experienced players leaving, the board, the team itself. So, what do you guys think? Would Thomas Frank be able to find a fix? Or would these problems eventually prove too much for him?